Thank you. It's such a privilege to be here in beautiful Bilbao. It's my second time in the city. I'm so happy to be able to return. I work for the city of Gothenburg. I'm managing the development work in the city district Gamlestaden. I think the title you formulated for this session was very well formulated, a new collaborative governance model for urban innovation and district management, because that's actually really what we're doing. So thank you for helping us understand that. Gothenburg is very much like Bilbao, a city of the sea, very strategically situated on the Swedish west coast. It's a much younger city than Bilbao. It was founded in 1621. Is it allowed to take this off while I'm speaking? Thank you. Very strategically situated on the Swedish west coast. As a matter of fact, the area north and south of Gothenburg at that time was Danish. So that's why Sweden really needed a town on the west coast. And as you can see, Gamlestaden is, the harbor is on the west, and Gamlestaden is in the northeast, 3 kilometers from the city center. But as a matter of fact, this is where the very first Swedish city was founded on the Swedish west coast, with Denmark and Norway, north and south of us. This, however, no one remembers. As you can see, there have been archaeological excavations, but all the artifacts that were dug up have been stuck away in the city museum of Gothenburg, and we don't really commemorate this history of Gamlestaden. Gamlestaden is also the home of important Swedish industry. It's built on mud, and there was textile industry in the late 1800s, so they had to invent a ball-bearing construction in order for the textile industry to work. And when you have a ball-bearing, it was in 1907, the global ball-bearing company SKF was founded in this place. Some of you might have heard of it. It exists all over the world, and it still has its global headquarters in Gamlestaden. And if you have ball bearings and you put a wheel on it and then you put a car on it, then you have a Volvo. So, and that is a brand I'm sure you have heard of course. Volvo is at home in Gothenburg. So this part of Gothenburg has been important in Swedish history and in Gothenburg history, but it hasn't been really recognized. It's quite an anonymous part for a long time of Gothenburg history. And also, Gamlestaden was built in the 1900s to house the workers of those industries that was situated in this area. And in the late 1900s, the city district was allowed to, in a downward spiral. It was mishandled by the city, it was mishandled by the property owners. And there was also quite a bit of organized crime. All these headlines are from 2001. And of course you don't understand it, but those are bad headlines when it comes to crime. So there was a bad situation in Gamlestaden at the turn of the millennium, which made the local property owners form the Property Owners Association of Gamlestaden. It was formed in 2001 and has been in function since then. Inspiration came from the international bid concept, as you probably know about, which they have in the Germany, UK, South Africa, Canada, United States, for example. The association is self-financed, so the members fund the activities, and they have been doing so all the way since 2001 on a voluntary basis. It's not. There are about 55 members. The membership has gone up and down over the years, but about 55 members now. And a budget, a relatively small budget, but still a very helpful budget, about 140,000 euro per year from voluntary membership fees. And of course, the members put in funding in accordance to their size. And the members are big commercial, private property owners, 18 housing cooperatives where the people living in the house own the house together. Property owners owned by the city, and also like the churches and a mosque who owns their own their own property. So it's a mix. Also, construction companies are members of this association. And during the 20 years of existence, a lot has happened. Many places and areas in the city district has been refurbished through collaboration and through co-financing. And Gamlestaden has also become a place for new construction. So a lot of new housing is now built in Gamlestaden. And 20 places, streets, parks, etc. have been refurbished over those 20 years. There have also been many other measures taken during this time. For example, some slum property owners have been bought out so that they have had to leave the area, and very many other measures. And as a matter of fact, today, Gamlestaden is a place where builders want to invest, property owners want to invest, and it's considered quite attractive to move to. It's a very interesting place now in Gothenburg, even though we don't have connected to that history that I was talking to you about before. In 2018, in order to formalize this development organization, the Property Owners Association and the City of Gothenburg entered into a cooperation agreement. It was renewed in 2021, and looks like this, with 11 agencies of the city, the Swedish Police Authority, and the Property Owners Association. And this is the organizational structure, and they have together formed a steering group with representatives from each party. And around this organization, you have all kinds of other associations, civil society, research agencies, universities, government institutes, etc., that are involved in different ways in the development process. So I am employed by the City of Gothenburg to coordinate this very, very dynamic process, and I'm answering to this steering group in my work. And this steering group is deciding on an activity plan each year, looking like this. And that activity plan is formed so that you can't tell anyone else, no other agency. You can't say that you must do that, you must do that. But since we in this structure, we all agree on what needs to be done. Hopefully, everyone will pitch in, because you know that my investment, the thing I want to do, it will pay off much better if it's coordinated with everyone else. So this is a structure, a horizontal structure, decision-making structure in a very vertical, ordinary management structure. In this cooperation agreement, sorry that the vision isn't translated into English, but in this cooperation agreement, we have formulated 9 areas of activities: urban development, new housing, living, Gamlestaden, you know, the life between the houses, safety and crime prevention, green transition, culture and history, analysis and research, network and influence, etc. Many of those things wouldn't have been done at all in this particular area if this organizational structure wouldn't have been there. And public safety has been a focus for all those years, as you can understand, and many measures have been possible to take just because people meet and do problem solving together. I am showing you some pictures I like to show you pictures with people in them, because even though the formal decision-making structure I've already shown you, but when we are formulating the problems and the solutions of the problems and formulating visions for the future, then many, many people are involved, always, and more and more people want to get involved. Professionals, people from the city agencies, and residents, people living in Gamlestaden. So it's quite a dynamic place to work in that right now. Placemaking is a central feature, and it's needed, even though we have been working in Gamlestaden for 20 years. It's badly needed, especially in the center of the heart, really, of Gamlestaden. And one essential problem there, of course, is that the ownership, the responsibility for the area is so divided between municipal agencies and property owners, and some property owners are free riders. They don't want to join. They refuse to take a telephone call. And we have no means of forcing them to take a telephone call and to participate. And this particular street is a place where we work with placemaking, or actually this entire area. And we have formulated a method where we're working very inclusively with several perspectives. With the public realm, we help local businesses to reach competitiveness, work with maintenance of street-level premises. Some of those housing cooperations who own and manage street-level premises, they don't know what to do. They have no idea what they're doing, and they need fundamental help with the contracts between the lender and the leaser. So in order to uphold basic order. Events, local safety, and also sustainable mobility, because we need to know what to do with all the cars that are taking the space now. You know that normally if the city would do that in an ordinary structure, they would only work with the public realm, and I wish everyone luck. For example, like this, the traffic authority in Gothenburg has taken the initiative to make this street, you have seen it already, to a temporary summer car-free pedestrian street in 2022. And it's really, really interesting, and it's going to be it's a very good initiative. But if you do only that and not all the rest, then I'm afraid that this street will become a place for drug dealers to own the place. So you need this very inclusive, multi layered way of working. Well, I wanted to show you pictures of people. As I told you, it's always a lot of people, and also a lot of workshopping taking place outdoors in the past few years, of course. The big event in Gamlestaden has been funded by the local association of the property owners for 10 years. Luckily, we could do it in September last year. Of course, not in 2022, in 2020. And this year, actually, for the first time, the local festival in Gamlestaden will be a part of the big celebration, the big culture festival in the city of Gothenburg, the first weekend of September. And as a consequence of that work, we got in contact with a local artist who said, "Oh, I can do a map of Gamlestaden." This is also a way of doing building identity, which wouldn't have taken place. I mean, this doesn't happen by itself. It wouldn't have happened. It would never have happened unless this dynamic was going on in the local area. Finding sustainable mobility solutions is a challenge. A lot of people are moving to Gamlestaden. A lot of people want to use their cars, and we can't use our cars, and we, of course, need to reach electrified mobility and new ways of moving around. And the government research institute of Sweden are saying that, well, this setting in Gamlestaden is a unique setting to formulate new solutions, cross-border solutions for mobility. And of course we had, well, there is another workshop with a lot of people in it. And we are still in the beginning of this process. Research and evaluation. We regularly ask the people in Gamlestaden what they think of the development process of their city district. There's a lot of pride in the city district, but there's also still a lot of problems. And as you can see, 6 times over these 20 years, a broad population study. And we are waiting for the researcher at the Gothenburg University for her final report on the 2021 survey. I am really soon finished, I promise. Also, as I said, there is a lot of new construction going on in Gamlestaden. I could talk about that for, that would be a topic of itself. This is the vision for one area. And there are lots of old industrial areas that big property owners are working to develop with a great sensitivity to the history of the area. And of course, the challenge is to make new construction, new housing connect with old housing so that the city district remains one and not separate entities. You remember Gothenburg was founded in 1621. We didn't celebrate its 400th anniversary last year because no one was in a party mood last year. Of course, we're going to do it next year. And then we will know if we have succeeded. Will Gamlestaden be a significant part of the Gothenburg 400-year celebration? Will the history of Gamlestaden be recognized and the identity strengthened? Will the pride of the people living in Gamlestaden, new people who have just moved there, or people who have lived there for 50 years, will it be strengthened? We will know that in the fall of 2023 when we are also celebrating the Gothenburg 400th anniversary. And I hope that when you all come to Gothenburg and buy your Lonely Planet traveling guide, you will see that 10 things you can't miss, never should miss in Gothenburg. That Gamlestaden should be a part of that 10-point list. Do I have the time to do this? Sure. Yes. So this model that we have formulated here, it actually turns out to be sustainable. It has been working for 20 years, and there's no end in sight. Effective, we think so. There are many, many problems that we couldn't deal with otherwise. And also duplicable. Since the actors locally own the process, as it turns out, in more and more places, especially in Stockholm and Malmö and in Gothenburg, they have been duplicated this organizational structure, more or less. And that is, of course, a strength. But then there are challenges. There is this the complexity of problems. You don't solve them easily. You need this very, very integrated problem-solving structure. You have free riders. I've also talked about that. We are low in resources. I recognize that. Since this isn't based on someone saying, well, hey, here you have 500 million, do what you want with that. But we do it within ordinary budgets, within all these actors, property owners and city authorities already working in Gamlestaden, and they are doing this development process within the ordinary budgets. There's also confusion in established local and state government structures. This is spreading. And what do we do with it when we have 10 or 20 bid structures in Gothenburg or in Stockholm or in Malmö? The government structures haven't figured that one out yet. And also we have no bid legislation in sight in Sweden, So these are some of the copies of this organizational model from Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If I'm going to...
Yeah. You could take a seat. Thank you. I've been asked to remove because of the beard. I think we can. Perfect. Good. Thank you so much, Helena, for your presentation. And it's great to be able to capture 20 years of ongoing renewal process from a, I would say, a very bottom-up approach in this particular case, and how others. I would like to ask you a couple of questions. One is about, I have seen that you have quite a nice graphic style, so the identity of the district had to be changed. You can explain further, what is being the role from a high crime delinquency area all the way, and what was the role of setting up the new identity, the placemaking, the involvement of the different citizens?
Well, without this structure, none of this would happen. Of course, when you're talking about the way, what you call it, the layout, the presentation style, of course, that has evolved over the years.
Yeah.
This comes from one of the local companies, a property owner developer, who bought a lot of property in Gamlestaden and wanted to develop their property, recognizing the history of the area, etc. And they spent a lot of money to take this logotype out, and then they said, hey, you can use it all. So that's the history behind the coloring, etc. But then there is dynamic things happening, like this map I show you. There was just, someone heard of someone or and then the property owners could found the artist, pay her some money for taking out that map, and hopefully when you all visit Gamlestaden in a few years, you will see that in several places in the city district.
That's very unique. And also I saw in the different programs that you have one particular about the digital urban development. Could you explain further?
Yes. Well, it's really a dream to integrate a digital urban development in a clearer way. Of course, because we are low in funding, we can't do everything as quickly as we want to. But you can see it being used in two different ways. In one way, to reach out to the ordinary citizen and to the visitor, you could communicate the city district in digital manners, and that might be something that we hopefully will be able to realize until this fall of 2023, or at least a dummy for it. But then there is also access to open data, etc., and the analysis of open data for a local area, which, I mean, in today's digital world, it should be possible to have excellent basis for decision making when it comes to demographic,
based on data,
etc. And it doesn't work like that yet, but that's an ambition.
That's incredible. Also, new development is coming into the district. What are kind of the biggest threats about how to integrate the new communities with existing ones, gentrification, rise of prices? Are there any of these challenges?
Of course, some actors will criticize this process for being a gentrification process. I think it's unfair, really, because when an area is in decline and dominated by drug dealers and violence in the streets, those are poor people that suffer from that. This is not an economically strong area in Gothenburg historically. People who live here and love their area, they have been so frustrated by the way the area has been handled over the decades. So, well, I would say that this is a class issue. You have this organizational structure to compensate for the poverty of the area, where perhaps, well, if you would have had only rich people, well-connected people living in an area like this, it would never have been in decline like this. So, well, sorry, that was a gentrification issue. Of course, there's a big challenge into integrating the area. Luckily, the planners of Gothenburg are doing a good job when it comes to planning the new development.
And also, you have the commitment of the property developers in order to do
yes,
kind of
absolutely.
affordability.
Yes, in Sweden we don't have market rents to start with, so rents are regulated so you can't. I mean, the property owners here can't just raise the rents any way they want. So that's really, I mean, that's a basic feature of the Swedish housing policy.
Perfect. Thank you, Lena. I think we'll have much more time later on to discuss with the roundtable, but it's been great to having you here.
Thank you.